Hola, people. Incredible evening. All right. So I have like a 30-minute wait before I can leave. I'm waiting to hear back about a certain matter. So since I have 30 minutes to spare, I figured I would just come online and chat it up with you guys real quick. Y'all normally do really good when it comes to the quick fire Q&A sessions. So let's make it do what it do. All right. Uh-oh. Hold on. I don't know what just happened there. All right, so I changed my audience. Drop. All right. So let's go over yonder. We're going over yonder. Hello. I'm not sure who that is, but hello. Thank you for jumping on. Let's go. Oh, that was Lisa. How art thou? All right. So just going to go through the groups where I shared this to, or I'm just streaming it. Like this time I'm not doing a whole lot of sharing. I just streamed it right to the groups. So we're going to just comment on these. Boom. And did I do? Yes, I did. All right. So let's go back over here. All right. So that's done. Let's see. Incredible evening. Hey. All right, so we have a question. What is the best dark transfer paper that doesn't have a paper sound? They all do. So there's really no way around that. They all have a paper sound. If that's what your determining factor is, they all do. Now you can do DTV. It says have a paper sound per se, but it kind of does because it still is like vinyl on the front. I mean, even my shirt that has the eco solvent, the color print on it, I mean, that really has a sound to it as well. So they all pretty much do. All right. Well, I guess I'll do my little quick intro while you guys are coming in and you're dropping your questions, and while it is sending out the notification. I am Shakia, the professor of HSINK365. We are the home of the amazing product line. Honestly speaking, we carry sublimation paper that allows you to sublimate as low as 365 degrees, as fast as 30 seconds. No cover sheet is required because it does not bleed to the top. Now, if you're doing something where there is exposed ink, or of course you need it on the bottom because of your bleed line, but it does not blow out or bleed through the back. So for most projects, you're able to, especially if you're doing like a shirt, you're able to omit putting a butcher paper or parchment paper or cover paper on top, because it's not going to come through there and get on your platen and then transfer like to another garment where it's not covered by something. So definitely check that out on our website, hsink365.com, along with our sublimation ink. Our bottles are 140 milliliters, so you get more bang for your buck. We have chip presenters for the old school workforces. We have pre-filled cards for the old school workforce. We have digital files over there, class that you can sign up for, all on our website, shop.hsink365.com. Our academy site is 365 Creative Academy, where we help you to unlock your creativity in a wide variety of classes and trainings, ranging from learning to design in programs like Silhouette Studio and Photoshop. We have business classes. We have classes for the actual application of things, like when we did our phone board one, chip bags, and things like that. So definitely check out the website for everything that we have to offer. That is hsink365.com. All right. So, oh yeah, it was pouring here. Pouring. It was raining. It's pouring. All right, y'all. No questions whatsoever. I was trying to spend my 30 minutes with y'all, but if you don't have any questions, there's no sense in me kind of staying around over here if you guys don't have any questions. No, we did not. So I will post it there. I will still give a discount code, but in the class, the grad camp won't be free. But for those who are in essentials, you will get a discount code. Hey, Misty. Ooh, those numbers dropped. No, because I don't have a stand for it. So I said that I won't, it's still in the box. I won't open that because I have nowhere to put it. So until the stand gets here, I can't actually utilize it. I have purchased the older essentials class. Do I need to purchase the newer one, or will I have a general understanding? So, like I said earlier today in that live video, if you didn't catch that, you can go watch that one. When I used to do them before, it was like all in four to like 6 hours, like depending on when I first started. I think that one was like, I think it kind of got progressively got longer. Like it's like 3 hours, then 4. Then I think the last one may have been like 6 hours. So you're getting 6 hours of just kind of running through it versus the way that the new essentials is set up. You have 30 days. Some days, like towards the end, we're doing like the Q&A and review and like designs. We had 2 sessions per day. So you really have like 30, I think 33 sessions. We had some bonus sessions. So it's well over about like 40 hours of content versus 6 hours. So you do get a lot more in the new structure of Essential Silhouette Studio compared to the previous years. So my classes vary in prices. So like the Essential Silhouette Studio right now, it is discounted to $53.65. It's normally $83.65. That price also going to change because we are going to kind of bring back our bachelor's program, and that is going to be a monthly fee for that setup because we're going to go back to where we are doing weekly or bi-weekly sessions for beginner type things, and then we have our masters. So instead of doing a lot of like a la carte classes and kind of having, okay, well, we're going to do the chip bag one, then we're going to do like the memorial, and having all these a la carte classes, they're just going to be within the program itself. And every week we'll just tap onto something else. It may not be like exactly what you need at that time, but you know, over the course of a year, it's going to be so many different things that we're going to tap into through, we call them bachelor's, master's, and doctorate. So last time doctorate was including the business stuff. It won't be this time. My doctorate program will be with things like obituaries and like major things will be within that program. All of my classes always have playbacks. Every last class has unlimited lifetime access to the playbacks. So it was just a general stand from Amazon. It's like 35 inches long, and you can let the legs out. I saw it on someone's YouTube channel who had it for the Cameo, and that's when I first like kind of saw that in New York. She was able to like put it down and like tuck it away when she wasn't using it, but it was like really, really big to where if you had like the big mat or stuff like that, you can use it for your to work on, as well as like a working surface. So I got that one for it. It's from Amazon. I got the adjustable one. I like adjustable heights. Hey, from Michigan. I love your sub paper. We purchased the 100 pack all the time. I tried the tacky roll and can't get it right though. Can you do another video on how to use it? I watched the older one. So when you say you can't get it right, what's happening with it? Is it that it's jamming? Are you using the rear feed? Are you using the front tray? I actually just did a video yesterday. Not yesterday, that was Saturday. When I was doing the stoles, and I was showing how I load that in there. So if you let me know kind of what's going on with it, I can probably walk you through it, but I probably won't do another video because it's the same information. I purchased the first a while ago and got the new one. I purchased the first one a while ago and just got the new one. There's a very big difference between the Essentials program. Yeah, there's a very big difference. I mean, just in the structure of it, it's a lot more structured. It gave more room and opportunity for kind of like I do, you do, we do type deal, to where I showed it. I broke it all down. It gave you guys, those who were live at the time, it gave them an opportunity to actually, follow along, ask any questions, share their screen if they had to. We had worksheets that are associated with most of the classes, anything that required an outside worksheet. Some of the things you didn't require one, like we went over certain things for text. Your text is just, on your computer. So you didn't have to necessarily worry about like having a worksheet for that. The replicate tool, we just use whatever, fonts and stuff you had already on your computer, or just any elements that you had, but they all were structured with worksheets and things like that. And it just left room for, especially that tracing one. Man, we had some, times where people had to share their screens. We had bonus time afterwards. I stayed on afterwards, and they were able to kind of work on it, ask questions. If they were clicking in the wrong area, I was able to walk them through it. So that's going to be helpful for a lot of people, because you might run into those same exact issues. So it is definitely a totally different structure than the Essential Seller Studio. Now, if you mean like the bachelor's, master's, and doctorate program, that's also going to be different as well. I mean, at the end of the day, you're learning to design. I mean, so it's going to still be the same concepts, but of course, it's just going to be different teachings. Hold on. Sorry. Give me a second. If you posted a question, there was a message that came across my phone that I'm just responding to. So bear with me one moment. Actually, that means tell me the cost of it. No, we don't have any roll paper in stock right now. I remember you saying it would be a requirement moving forward for any of your other classes. Does that still apply if we reviewed older classes? I have noticed like so I'm in kind of that tester phase of like I've done certain things and not had it as a requirement, and we end up going back to this. So some people say that they've done, so it all depends. Like if you've been in certain programs, well, I will say this for the structured programs like the bachelor's. Now, if I ever do something where it's kind of like a la carte, and let's just say like someone I've been asked a couple of times about as far as like obituary classes and things like that. So something like that, if it's a la carte, it's not a requirement. But for any of my programs, like if you want to be in this program where we're going to be doing lessons like bi-weekly, you have to have essentials because that is going to be the base information as far as like, let's say if we do a class and we kind of doing like a couple different examples of when you would use crop, we refer back to the original like cropping day from the 30-day training. So for the kind of like, as you could say, like subscription based, like the bachelor's, master's, and doctorate, that is going to be a requirement. But if it's something where it's like a la carte, like if I'm doing like the phone board class, if I do something like that, that's not a requirement. For the grad camp, that's not a requirement. But for anything where I'm really teaching design as far as like a subscription base and like an ongoing thing, yes, it is going to be required. No design questions, no printer questions, no business questions. It is an open Q&A, guys. So all of our prices, if y'all don't know, everything always has 365 in there somewhere. So for certain programs, it will range between 1365 and 5365, depending on the program. So that's kind of your range per month. Actually, I said 53. Actually, no, it's 6365. I'm thinking about purchasing the Roland BN20 for transfer stickers and decals. Do you have a question in regards to that? You miss Masters? I can't do the weekly thing for like bachelors. Masters was more like a 2-week thing. I think that's going to be the better way of doing this. And just kind of like in testing and like the past couple of like classes and programs that I've done. So I think it will end up being kind of like Masters where it's going to be a bi-weekly thing versus like the every week thing like bachelors was. Are there chip cartridges for the XP? I've never used that particular one. So that is the Expressions 1500. That's the one with the red and gray. I'm pretty sure that's a cartridge based printer, but I'm not sure if it has a chip resetter or if it's just single use chips. I haven't done any research when it comes to that particular printer. People are just now asking about that one. I think it's more so because of the extra ones. I think they can, if I'm not mistaken, I think they can use that for DTF. I'm not quite sure. I don't get into the whole hack or converting of DTF printers, but that is one that people have been asking about a lot lately. We have the gray ink, we just don't have the red ink. Last question, I think, did I hear you correctly that you're thinking about discontinuing to sell the replacement chips? If so, what printers will we continue to use your pigment ink for? So yes, we most likely will not order anymore after these sets are gone. It's just too much of a liability, and just dealing with customers that don't like, we put it out there, hey, you're taking on this risk. And I mean, I understand that someone say, okay, it's a higher cost. It's $17 per chip. If you get the whole set like of just chips, that's $60. If you got like, let's say the full kit, yeah, you're paying, a good amount of money because you're getting the ink and the cartridges and stuff like that. But like just the chips, I mean, you could be out $60 if something does not work. And it's just becoming unnecessary liability, like dealing with the back and forth and chips coming back. Actually, which is my fault. I was actually supposed to change it, and for that one I have to put, because the terms and conditions will change. So we were going to try and do it to where, I mean, you would get a store credit versus like a full refund. But at this point, it's just too much. The way Epson has set these up, it's not worth the headache. Like it really is becoming not worth the headache, because people aren't accepting responsibility of the fact that they are choosing to use third party cartridges and chips with these printers, and this is just a risk that you end up taking, and they just don't take responsibility for that, and it's falling on us. And I'm tired of dealing with people trying to do chargebacks when it's clearly on the website, and it's just making unnecessary work for us. So if you, I mean, for the pigment ink, I mean, you just really want, you can try somewhere else. I'm just not saying that you cannot use them. We just will not be selling them. There are companies that still carry them. You can go through, probably like go straight through AliExpress or go through eBay or go through Etsy. You can still use our ink. The ink is independent of the actual cartridges and chips. So you can still use the ink. We just won't be selling the chips. Yes, people were using them because you have the extra channels on it. People were using it for DTF. What is the size of the Roland Band 20, and does it need its own stand? So it doesn't necessarily need its own stand. It is great to have the stand. When we did purchase the stand, I mean, if you have counter space for it, to where you have the clearance in the back, because you have to be able to put the media bar, like it actually sits out, so you don't know how much space you need. So if you have table space to support it and you have somewhere for it to go, you don't need a stand. We opted for the stand so that we can move it around and it's like not take up counter space that we don't have. I don't know like the actual like size of the entire unit, but it takes 20-inch media and then you have extra on the side. So let's say anywhere between 25 and 30 inches wide, if that. And then also you have to think about the cartridge as well. So you have smaller cartridges, which is the 220. We now use the 440 cc's. So those cartridges are really, really long. So it takes up a lot of space. Yeah, I know some people say they don't have issues, but others do. And it's just, yeah, it's just not worth it. I have a 7820 and it did an automatic update. I can't use aftermarket inks any longer. Is there something I can do about that? So it never does an automatic update. There's no such thing as it doing an automatic update. You always have to really initiate that. You are able to turn that off. So for anyone who was watching this, if it hasn't gone through, like, and even if it does, like, let's say it's only if it does the firmware update, you can turn those off. You can turn those notifications off. You can tell it to not search for the updates and things like that. But it typically does not do an automatic update. It normally pops up the Epson updater and lets you know, like, to say, hey, if you want to do the update. Now, I don't know of any way to roll it back. My husband ended up doing it on ours. All the colors actually work except magenta. We just can't get the magenta to pick up. All the other colors they pick up, and they have the third-party inks. But our magenta, we had to put the Epson cartridge back in there for the magenta. And we tried several chips, and it's just not reading that. But all the others, after he did the firmware update, they read. So it's, yeah, that's not even consistent across the board on what happens if you do the firmware update. I just got my stand for the BN20 after a year. So I can move it around. Exactly. Any thoughts on the F570 Pro? I mean, it's an actual sublimation printer. So that's more so of the route that I will probably be speaking to more, which means like other than those who still have, like, I mean, we'll still have it for those who want to convert and stuff like that. But my recommendation is going to be to really look into some of the actual sublimation printers, or some people still convert like the really big ones for the wide format, like the 36-inch wide ones. And they can, of course, still use our ink in that as well. Just kind of put that into those cartridges. And that is another system where you have to change out the chips. Not sure if we'll do like where we will provide the cartridges and chips for those particular printers, but you can still use the ink. Going forward, it's going to be more so like me talking about sublimation from probably like an F170. The F170 and the F570 really are the same as far as like their settings, where you have rigid and textile. Of course, the F570 is just wide format. Of course, it's going to be a great printer, and it's made for sublimation. For that one, their ink is a little bit more expensive, but I don't. So we sell a third-party ink because you can use Epson desktop printers, although they're not intended for that purpose. Epson does not sell sublimation ink, like, or sub cartridges that have sublimation ink in them. Therefore, companies like mine, we sell third-party inks so that you can convert those. The F170, the F570, those are actually sublimation printers that are water-based printers, and they're gonna, you can buy the ink for it. That's going to match its color profile. Our color profile is never going to fully match that, and you're always, you might potentially get like a difference in color. So I'm always going to recommend getting the Epson ones, although some people said that their issue is finding the Epson inks in stock in places, or having to constantly keep ordering from different places, and people aren't keeping them in stock. Now I can see how that can potentially be an issue. I don't know if I will ever get an F570, we've considered the F170, that's the 8-inch one, just so that we can potentially test ink in it. But then it's like, man, I'm going to have the Epson ink. Why would I not want to put that in there? And that ink lasts a really long time, so I'm told. So I don't even know how we would do that one to test, because it's almost like we would have to spend $300-400 just to put our ink in there to see. Well, then we really still need two, because I would need to have one with the Epson ink to test and see how that comes out, one with our ink in it to be able to do that. Like, that's kind of how I like to do testing. And I really don't have a need for two 8.5-inch printers. So I don't know how that will go. But I probably will just talk more about saying just look into the F170 and the F570 as options, because the colors are all over the place, unless you're going to get the 16600 or 16650, which costs $1,000 and $1,300. Any of the smaller format, or like the less, like the 600 to like 785.50, you're always going to have issues with colors with those. And then the ones that you don't have issues with, there's the issues with the chips. So the converting game is a lot different now than it was a couple years ago. The magenta is the same one that you had to use it for with your 7840. And that's the one that we have, our 7840. So our 7820 is still good. Our 7840, we had to use Epson. So that's another thing. It might be something where it's just the 7840 that once you do it, that's the one that like just goes out. So you should never ever do the firmware update for the printers. So this is the only time where it has affected using the chips. Before, like with the old workforce printers, and even when it comes to the EcoTank printers, that's never going to affect it. But there's really no benefit to it. Before, there was no adverse effects, there were no beneficial effects. Now, with the newer ones, when you do the firmware update, and it's so and what's crazy is it's only when you do the update. So there are some where once Epson kind of had that update, like this is like I think the second one they had. So there's a second set of them that already had the firmware update, and as soon as you use it, it still worked with the chips. But it's like when you do the actual update, it was like killing the chips. It was like making it to where it did not work, which is so weird. But like, let's say 6 months from now, they're rolling out a new batch. Of course, it's going to probably have that newer firmware update because they're remanufacturing stuff like that. And I guarantee they'll probably work. It's just something weird when you actually initiate the update that's making them all wonky. Yeah, I still have my 7720s and 7710s. So we'll be able to use, yes, you can always use our paper. I have so many people that have the F570 and use our paper, especially the rolls. They're waiting for the rolls to come back because they love the rolls. When we do get the rolls, we're looking to get the fast dry and still carry the tacky, but just kind of working out logistics on that. I don't have one, so I can't explain the differences. My printer is new and it did the update automatically. Interesting. Yeah, but my printer was new and it did not do an update automatically when I had mine. So there's a difference between your drivers and doing a firmware update. Mine, when we set ours up, I've done plenty of them and I've done the setups on live, and mine's has never done an automatic update. So that's interesting. Yep. So I've had quite a few of them. I have extra sitting in storage. So once they were discontinued and they actually brought them back for a little bit, we brought some extras. Some of them we gave away, but I do have one. I have a 7720 that's in storage. I'm like, if anything ever happens, like I'm always gonna have that one. But we've actually had some that went bad over time, and we just kind of have those now for replacement parts if we need them. The motherboard has gone bad, but like the print head still works if we have to switch that out. We have like the trays, we have like different parts from it if we need them. So we keep them in storage. But yeah, I won't be getting rid of mine anytime soon. Would you recommend troubleshooting your own workforce? I think one of the cords came loose that goes to the on off button. Can't see where to hook it back up to. Would have to take the top off the printer. I mean, if you feel comfortable doing it, I mean, if it's messed up already, you can't, it only hurts to try it. I've actually worked on mine some, but of course, I'm used to tinkering with things. So yeah, it doesn't hurt, especially if it's not turning on. I mean, it doesn't hurt to take the top off and look at it. I would recommend that you record it so that you know how to put it back in order. So no, it wasn't a free registration. So basically what was happening was if we reached a certain number of new enrollees for Essentials to Silhouette Studio, it would have been free for everyone in Essentials. We did not reach that. So you're already in Essentials. It wasn't on you, it was on others to enroll. We were shy of our goal of 365. So it's just not going to be free. You guys are just going to get a discount code. So there was nothing, it wasn't a free registration just to attend it for free. I took your text stole class about 2 weeks ago. I worked alongside you, and my customer loves his design. Thank you for everything you do. P.S. I don't know why I took the class because I've already took all three. LOL, and I enjoyed it nonetheless. Oh, so you took the stole class? What was that? 2 years ago when we did the level 1, level 2, level 3. You took that one also? Ah, okay. Thank you for the support. Thank you. I'm glad that you enjoyed the class. That's like Miss Dawn. Miss Dawn was like, look, it don't matter what classes you teach. I'm in there like swimwear. I'm going to take all of the classes. She's so silly. All right. Do the workforce have any problems with Summation Ink? No. Workforce printers are actually the best printers for Sublimation Ink because the color profiles are closely matched compared to an EcoTank printer. The issue with current workforce printers is not the Sublimation Ink, it is the chips. So it's not even the issue of the cartridges. So with the newer workforce printers, Epson has made it to where each one has to have its own serial number, and it's like all this other stuff going on to where if you happen to do firmware up, even if you don't do firmware updates, sometimes the chips just do not read at all. So that is the issue with the newer workforces, the 7820, 7840, 7310, and C7000, is that the chips could potentially not read in your printer. And the crazy thing is they can read in one printer and not the other, and vice versa. But just using the Summation Ink workforce printers are the better ones to get a more accurate color. You're going to have so many off colors when it comes to using EcoTank printers. Your grays will end up having more of a brownish tone or a pinkish tone, a purplish tone, depending on the ink that you're using. So that ink that normally is a brown ink in the bottle will give you that your grays will end up coming out looking like brown. And then you have, like with ours, it comes out more like a pink. It can be like a purple. I keep saying pinkish, purplish tone. Reds are really hard, like unless you are using the exact color code, they can come out more like a red, orange, orangey reddish, like a coral color. Um, Greens and teals are a little bit harder to get to come out accurately. Royal blues will come out looking purple. So there are certain colors within the color gamut when you're using an Epson EcoTank printer that just don't come out right. But with a workforce printer, it is closer to it because of the way the ink is. I normally do the demonstration and I'll show you like the differences between dye-based ink, pigment ink, and Sublimation ink. But I don't have, wait, do I have it in here? I don't have and I'll have to walk out of here to get it. I don't have my dye ink in here. It's in the other printer room. But I've done several demos where I show the differences between dye-based ink, pigment ink, and Sublimation ink, and why there's such a big difference. Listen, as long as I can make it work financially, I'm with Ms. Dawn. LOL. You see, I don't want to be left behind and trying to budget the newer essentials classes. So I'm going to continue with your classes. And that's really why I try my best to make them affordable because I mean, you have some people in their programs, and what they'll do is they have like one or two classes. So they'll make them kind of big ticket items because they kind of just sell that one over and over and over again. I like the live classes, and I would like for people to be able to attend the live classes. I like the interaction. I like to hear voices. I like to answer questions in real time. And there's always something new to add on and to learn. So I prefer to keep my class and keep things a little bit more affordable. Um, when I was discussing the prices with my team and like my husband, and they're like, here you go again, here you go again. And I'm like, look, Netflix has a whole, like this whole thing where like they have what, like, is it like $9.99? It used to be like $8.99. Even if it's like $10.99, like they're not charging like 50 $60 a month to be able to use like Netflix or Hulu and all these. I mean, I have streaming service and I have access to all of their content, all these movies for like $5.99 per month or whatever, or whatever the cost is. And so they're like, but they have like hundreds of thousands of people. And I said, well, maybe I said, I'm okay with trying to build to that. So it is kind of hard. Like if you, it is, it's like a hit to the gut. So you go, you put it out, and you try to make it affordable, yet people still say, oh, I don't have it. But that, never mind, that's a whole new story. Like, I don't understand why people don't put emphasis on learning as much as they do like buying the equipment. So you had no problem buying a $600 machine that you don't know how to use. You're trying to figure out how to make money, but you don't want to invest any money. I will never get that. But it is kind of a hit to the gut to try and look out for people and make it affordable. And you get a handful of people. So I still have to do these classes because I've committed to them. So I'm not really making the amount of money I want to make per hour, or I'm committing to this and I'm really making no money. So it just I see where my team is coming from. If we were guaranteed to get a certain number of enrollees and we were to hit our budget, especially with me giving up my time, like if I'm doing this program and I'm breaking it up for beginners, which some of you guys, I know you'll probably be tempted to do the master's or doctorate, but if you're not ready for that, you're just starting, they'll come back around. Like you can always get, like, eventually buy the playbacks and buy access to it, or when the next one, because I always only do things for a year. I never do them to where it's like a lifetime and you pay this and you just continue to get access, because that gets kind of sketchy with folk. And no, you're not going to get access to my brain for forever. So I kind of do it like either 6 months to a year of like sessions, and then you just re-enroll for the next one. That's kind of how I do mine. But in my mindset, like, I have a YouTube channel of like 30,000, another one that's like 33,000, another one that's 23,000, another one that has was like 600 and something. I have Facebook. My Facebook page is well over 10,000 people. My Facebook groups is like 12,000 and something. The other. So in my mind, I'm like, with all these people, like I should be able to at least hit part of that to where we reach our numbers. I'm always hoping that I will reach part of that, but we kind of don't. So I know where my team's coming from with it. I know for them, they said, well, maybe if you limit the number of lives that you do, maybe they will join your classes more. But I love this part. I just love the Q&A part. So it is kind of hard for me to let that go completely. But that's also how you just kind of how I introduce myself to those who may not know who I am. So I'm always going to still do some sort of free live content and things like that. But if I knew that I was guaranteed like to get a certain number, I would be okay with making it less expensive. But I can't go and have a program where it's like, $563 per month and I have 10 people. Like, that's definitely not going to be worth my while. So I'm trying to build up to where people see the value in being in there, and I can keep it very affordable, but have the number of enrollees. It's going to make it worth our while as a company, because it's not, some people will kind of go and kind of clock your pockets, or you're making this, but we also have a business to run. We have storage fees and rent, and we have utilities, and we have insurance, and we have bookkeepers. So there's more to, don't think that all that money just comes to me. We have our salary. We have staff that once we, especially with that, I have staff that I'm going to have to pay and stuff like that. So it is there to run a business. And if I don't have the number of enrollees, the cost has to be higher for my time that I'm helping others and actually take care of business also. I'm also appreciative that you make your classes affordable, and even more grateful that you provide substance in your classes. Ooh, I like how that sounds. Why is my image black when I open it from the library? But before I click on the library, I can see the image. You are using a Mac. I guarantee it. Are you a Mac user? If I decided to use an EcoTank printer for pigment ink, do you think your color charts will help with knowing how colors will print? Kind of, sort of, yeah, but your colors are going to come out really, like, some people do it and they're okay. It just depends on how much of a stickler you are for colors. I made a post and I showed the difference, and I actually have a live video where I had the pigment ink in the EcoTank printer. I printed it out and you can see the differences in the colors. So, I mean, if you are designing everything just like, with sublimation, it can help for you to choose those colors to kind of get that range. But when you're printing out stuff that's already done, yeah, your colors are going to be much darker. See, I knew it. Unfortunately, that is a Mac glitch. I am not sure which version it is isolated to, if it's all version 4, but that is a Mac glitch. And it's like, depending on if you zoom in, zoom out, it makes it where it can either turn it where it's black, or sometimes like something that you opened previously, it fills it in with that. It's just a weird glitch with Mac. Pigment ink is basically just regular ink. So as far as like the regular ink that you would just print out on a regular piece of paper for a chip bag, a label, a sticker, a term paper, fan, like the graduation fans, like it's just regular ink. You just print it out. How you print it out is how you see it. So with sublimation, it is heat activated. You don't see the true colors until you apply heat. Pigment ink, dye-based ink, and like your toner from a laser printer are all just regular inks. What you see is what you get as far as like once it's printed out. Dye-based inks are not water resistant. If they get wet, it's gonna, y'all remember like the old school stuff, it's just gonna run. Pigment ink is water resistant. So if it gets wet, it does not run. And then of course, laser doesn't run as well, but it's more so toner. It can crack on certain papers. And yeah, so that's kind of the difference between your regular inks. Does the layers, oh, now it's pouring down raining. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not driving. It is pouring. I probably should have left. I was actually at my, probably right when I should have left at my 30 minutes. It wasn't raining, but I was waiting to see if my mom was going to call me. Now it's pouring down raining. So as soon as, I'm telling you right now, as soon as this rain lets up, I'm hitting end and I'm getting up out of here, because I can't go out there because I don't have an umbrella and I got to take my laptop home and I ain't trying to get my ish wet. So does the layer panel in Silhouette Studio work similar to Photoshop layers? Can you move and hide layers in Silhouette? So no, not quite. So let me see here. There is a layers panel, but you don't get any pictures like to identify what it is. They will identify it as polygon, text, group, things like that. So you don't get a picture. And in Photoshop, everything is a layer. In Silhouette, it's not quite that. Like you set your layers. It's almost like the groups of Photoshop, and you will have things underneath. So you cannot hide the individual elements. You can only hide everything that's on that layer. So unless you are going to make every single thing its own individual layer, it doesn't quite work the same. You guys are not little people. Don't say that, but I consider people's pockets, What is the difference between EcoSolvent and inkjet permanent printable vinyl? So EcoSolvent ink and like the whole EcoSolvent situation, you have the water-based one, which is not a true like EcoSolvent. Like EcoSolvent, solvent, and latex ink. Well, it's latex ink, and then solvent and EcoSolvent are more like oil-based, and you have to have the heat in order for it to apply to like certain substrates, like PVC, like the banner vinyl. If you're going to print to adhesive vinyl, like printable adhesive media, like the Orajet printable adhesive, even like 631, 651, 951, like those type, like calendar and cast vinyl. So there's a big difference. I know I just had it from, okay. I have 2 of them on my computer, so can I take one off? Ooh. I don't even know if I can get this off. It's been on here for a while. So yeah, I can't even peel it off. It's been there. So that adhesive is on cast and calendar vinyl is very aggressive. Hold on one second. So this is Orajet printable, right? So this is actual, this one is cast. It's not calendar. But the way this is made, like you pull it, it's like it's going to stretch. This is actual vinyl. It has a solvent-based adhesive, which is going to make it a permanent, it's going to adhere permanently. The 631 is a water-based one, to where you're supposed to be able to remove it. But over time, if you leave a 631, it basically is just as strong as 630, 651, and it can peel the paint and the drywall off. But you see how, oh, I had to really pull that for that to snap. Ow, that hurt my shoulder. Whereas this, I showed when I did this video, they call this vinyl. How be e ever? Like, look, I tried to pull it off and look, it already ripped. Like this will rip and it'll rip like nothing. So I take this one and see, so they call this vinyl, but it's nothing more than sticker paper. This can take regular ink, which means technically you can print eco solvent ink on this and you're going to think that, oh, wow, I got a vinyl sticker. No, you don't. This is not vinyl. It says sticker vinyl. Sticker vinyl is not the same as actual calendar or cast vinyl. No, I'm not about to give you a breakdown of cast and calendar. You can go and do a Google search for that, because then this will be too long. Most people don't care about the scientific part of it, but just know that this right here, the packaging said sticker vinyl, but it's not vinyl. This rips. It's nothing more than sticker paper with an adhesive backing, to it. Okay. So on that side of it, that is the difference in just the quality of the material. So if you're making something for outdoors, like, I mean, this, I've had these stickers like on my car and they just don't fade, like not like quickly. Not, and there's a whole lot of UV. Whereas with the others, just pigment ink, if you don't have if you're not laminating it or spraying it with like some type of UV protection, it's going to fade quickly. When you try to take it off, it is going to be hell to take it off of like windows and things like that. That's just the adhesive side. Now, when it comes to for garment decorating, you can use Caesar color print, easy PU. You can use that with the converted eco solvent, water-based eco solvent ink, because you don't really need like the heat. You'll get the heat, it'll still penetrate it. But if you were to print that from a pigment ink printer, the way that pigment ink is made, it can run on there. So for pigment ink or just regular dye ink, that's when you're using your DTV. They're made a different way to where it can absorb or take that ink. Those actual solvent, or like, I'll just call them solvent, because whether it's eco solvent or solvent, it's the same thing. Those inks are made in a different way, and the material is made in a way to accept those inks and keep them in there permanently. You just can't do that with pigment, especially with adhesive. You can't do that with pigment or water-based with the adhesive vinyl. So this right here, you have to use a true solvent or latex printer to print on printable adhesive media. But you can get away with the converted ones for HTV. Can you use an HP printer for pigment ink? So you don't just like, okay, it's different when you're taking a printer and you are converting it to sublimation. So any heat-free printer, and that's like the important part, is the fact that it's heat-free. You can put sublimation ink in it and it'll print out. But of course, like, like I keep talking about, when it comes to EcoTank printers, your colors are going to be off. Workforce printers, closer to the colors. Same thing with eco solvent. Eco solvent is just another ink. You can put that really in any printer. I tried it with the Canon. I was told that the Canon's print heads were a little bit off for those, but technically it's not like an Epson print head. It has to be the one that you use the eco solvent ink in, as long as it's a system where it allows you to either use a refillable cartridge, or it's a tank system that allows you to put the ink in there. Technically, you can use like the eco solvent ink. It doesn't have a heat-free requirement like sublimation does. when it comes to pigment ink, that is not a specialized type of ink like sublimation or solvent, eco solvent ink. It is just a regular ink that is waterproof. So HP Office Jets, if you just search pigment ink printers, HP's Office Jet printers will come up. How you can tell if you have a pigment ink printer is print something out, put it underwater. If it does not run in any way, shape, or form, because with the like 8550 and things like that, you will see where it will blur off and it will run a little bit because your cyan, magenta, yellow, and gray are dye-based inks. Only your black is, well, your regular black is dye, and then the photo black is pigment ink, which is why I always say there is no such thing as a photo black sublimation ink. Photo black is a type of ink. Photo black is pigment ink, and that's just the ink that does not run. So if the printer is like, so you have to read all the specs. It'll tell you if it has a water resistant ink or if it has pigment ink in it. You just have to read the specs. HP does not have printers where it has like this refillable system. You're going to go through their ink somebody, I forget what the little ink subscription is or whatever. Insta Ink is theirs. So that's how that kind of works. You don't really make a printer a pigment ink printer. It either is or it isn't, because those are two different inks. Dye ink looks like food coloring. Pigment ink looks like the color that it is. I have an Epson 2720 with Epson ink that I use for chip bags. So it's the same thing, guys. Those printers use dye-based inks. So you will see a significant difference in color putting pigment ink in there. And then also, because you already have that ink, that is a darker ink. It looks like food coloring. They don't look like the actual colors. So if you even try to let that get down and you're putting pigment ink on top, you're changing the color of it. It's going, like, your yellow ink will look orange because dye ink in its bottle, the yellow ink looks orange. So if you mix dye and pigment inside that reservoir, it's going to look orange and your color is going to look crazy. What is the next best thing to DTF or DTG? There is really nothing. I mean, each one of those things they have its benefits. So I'm not going to say that there's something that gives you the same thing. Other than screen printing and doing simulated process to get all of those different colors. But yeah, I mean, some people say white toner, but I don't agree with that. White toner to me is a much heavier hand feel than DTF. And then DTF is a much heavier hand feel than DTG. DTG and DTF are not created equal, because with DTG, you're just pre-treating your shirt, you're printing it directly on it. That powder makes it to where it does have a bit of a heavier feel on your shirt compared to DTG and doing it directly to the garment, because you don't have that extra layer as far as the powder. So I guess it would be like white toner, but those printers are really expensive. And then you have to marry them, and for like, is it 120 seconds? And then you press it, and then you have to peel it very carefully, let it cool, then peel it, then put a finishing sheet on it. So it's a lot more steps to it. I mean, eco solvent, I mean, it's kind of the same, but you have the hand feel. But when it comes to eco solvent, you do still have to weed. So as far as it being a method where it's just printing and it's just print, and well, I guess DTF technically has extra steps too, because you have to powder it, you have to cure that powder. Yeah, none of these methods are like one compared to the other. What's comparable to it? What's the next up for it? Because they all offer different benefits. For wraps on cups, would you use eco solvent, or can you get away with inkjet? I would never use inkjet. There's no such thing as inkjet printable vinyl. There is no such thing. There is no such thing. There is no such thing as one like that's really, well, even if they do, it is very, very thick. And on someone's cup, to rub your hand across it and feel that, really like feel the edge of that vinyl, it doesn't come off as being quite professional. Whereas with this vinyl, it is very thin and you barely like feel it when it's on a tumbler. So for wraps, I would say order actual eco solvent wraps from someone who has an actual solvent or latex printer. Yeah, you have to. You gotta have to. Hey, just say thank you for letting us know where you are watching from. Trying to hear. I'm telling y'all, if I get a break in the rain, I'm gone. Let me. Nope, it's still pouring. It's still pouring down. But the moment I get a break in the rain, I'm running up out of here. Oh, wait. We might have a break. We might have a break. There is no fix for it. There is no fix. The only fix is maybe to go down to version 3. Because I think almost all of the version 4s, you have to maybe figure out if there is a version that doesn't. But like in my classes, people have used different versions of version 4 and they still have it. So there's no fix for it other than exploring the different versions to see if it corrects it. And it's happened in a lot of the various iOSs. So I can't even say that it's isolated to a particular iOS. Although on my husband has the iMac. I haven't really experienced that because he's used it to design some stuff before. I don't think I've experienced it on his iMac. It's been more so like the Mac books that has been happening on. I'm always here watching, listening. I think afraid to even get started. Why do you feel like you're afraid to get started? So are you saying you're afraid to get started just doing in general, or you have this thought of when you say get started, meaning getting started for business? If it's the pressure of business, yeah, forget about that. Just do it for you. Do it for fun. Make gifts. Make things that you can give away. Maybe there's someone that has like some type of fundraiser and you can just donate those things. But take the pressure off of it and don't think of it as starting for business. Just do it for as a hobby. Like start it as a hobby where there's no pressure. At first I was going to try and do it this week, and then my husband quickly reminded me that this is tax week, so it'll end up being after taxes. And then Zion Imani's birthday is the 19th. So I'm shooting for the 20th because the 22nd, because I have to do some stuff to prepare for his birthday party on the 22nd, because we're going to the zoo because they're also having an epilepsy walk. Which you guys will see some information come out that. Please support my baby's, our team that we're creating for that, because he does have epilepsy. So once I get that all finalized, I'll have a team for you guys if you want to send donations for epilepsy research. That is coming very soon. So it'll probably end up being the 20th, because I don't really want to do it. Well, probably the 20th and 21st, because the 22nd, we're going to be not. It's kind of late to do it, but at the same time, y'all keep asking. That's one of the only reasons why I'm trying to still squeeze it in. Because it was up to me, it'll really be the last week of April, which still works for a lot, like for people here in South Florida, because grad stuff doesn't really happen until the end of May, beginning of June, and parents will literally wait till the last second because they're paying out still, like now, like they have like senior breakfast, senior picnics, they had grad night, they have prom. Here, a lot of the parents will wait till the very last second to figure out what money they have left. So like here in South Florida, hey, we can still like start doing some stuff first week of May, putting some stuff out. Now there are other areas where, their grad season wraps up like in the middle of May. So it's a little bit, if I could, I would hold off. I would rather hold off into the last week, but I know that's kind of like still pushing it for some folks. So I was trying to shoot for the 21st or the 20th and 21st, because Zion Imani's birthday is the 19th, and then his party is on the 22nd at the zoo. Yeah, it's still pouring down. Is there a way in Select Studio to where you can choose to trace or not auto trace when bringing an image in without changing your preferences every single time? No. So you would have to either have it set to have it check for PNG trace or not, and then you would just trace it yourself. But there is no way to like just toggle it. They don't have a keyboard shortcut for toggling on and off PNG trace. Yep. See, you have a MacBook Pro. Yeah, I think it's a MacBook thing. I'm so many dollars in, but scared of what I do not know, especially on your. So, guys, don't compare yourself to me. Just start. Just start. Don't compare yourself to anybody. I will be. I'm well in my 40s. Not say well in, but I'm over 40. I started this when I was 16. And like, as far as getting into the graphic designing part, as far as like actually creating things, that was more so. I mean, I did some stuff like when I was in school because I had my cousin that had babies while I was still in high school. But more so like, especially when I got to the military and doing those things, especially in Korea, man, the way I used to DIY some stuff and spray paint was my friend. I'm gonna spray paint the heck out of some of everything to create it because that's all we can do like for celebrations and stuff in Korea. So I've been doing this for a long time, and I was in Korea when I was 18. By the time I got to Korea, I was 19. So I've been doing this for a really long time. Please don't compare yourself to me. And also, I put in a lot of times. Like, so I started. It wasn't like I just jumped into this and I'm doing orders. I spent years practicing. Like, y'all may think I'm bullcrapping when I say that, but if I see something, I would just there's no money involved. There was no pressure involved. This is something that I truly wanted to invest time in. I wanted to learn. So I was just making stuff, like, especially design wise, just get in there and just, if it messed up, it messed up. In my mess ups, I learned how a tool worked. I thought it was doing something else, and I just figured it out from there. But I did not have the pressure of business. I cannot speak for anyone else. I did not get into this, and I'm like, there was no like Facebook and all that stuff then. So where I'm seeing people do this, I'm in all these groups, and it's like driving me crazy. Like, oh my God, they're saying they can make money. There's people saying, oh, you can make 6 figures, you can make $1 million, you can make this, you can make $1 billion. I didn't have that pressure when I was coming up. It was, this is what I'm interested in. This is what I want to learn how to do. And I just did it. And that's kind of just where I am now, to where it makes it so much easier for me to teach it. But definitely don't worry about being a level. Don't mess up. I encourage you to some ish up. Okay. F it up. You learn so much. I'm telling you, you learn so much in the mess ups. You learn so much in the first time that there's things I do now. And I'm like, whoa, why didn't I think of this? Like the first time I did it, to where it took me hours and hours to finish something. And then now, like by doing it and just like constantly researching things, looking up other things, it's like, oh, this is a better way of doing this. Like, I'm always taking notes. I have tons and tons. I've shown the notebooks that I have, and I'm always writing down notes. I'm sketching out stuff. You have to just be committed to doing it. I think I better make a run for it. I think it's a feeder band that's coming around, and it seems kind of quiet now. So I better get out of here to catch it before the next one comes around. So I have an SG 500 and an EcoTank 15. I'm guessing the 15,000, not a 1500. And I'm over the color issues with the EcoTank. So I'm looking into getting a newer workforce. So we have a disclaimer on there. So what is required? You have to change out your chips every time. So it's not necessarily when the ink runs out, because it might be you still have prints on your chips and you don't have any ink because there's no regulator in the newer cartridges. So you may have to fill the cartridge, but you still have prints on the chips. But the chips have to be changed out all the time. There is no guarantee that the chips will work. We test them. So we went and, like, especially when we got that new batch, we tested over half of them. And we still had people where we sent them out and they sent them back. They said they didn't work. And then we got them back. And then all of a sudden they don't work on our printers. And we tested them and we know that they worked. So there is no guarantee that the third-party chips will work no matter where you're getting them from. We have people every day that come to us like we are their next resource because where they got them from wasn't working. And because we do test our chips, they want to take the chance on getting them from us, but there's still, again, no guarantee that they will work. So that is the issue that a lot of people have with the newer workforces. So if you got into it back in the day and you have a 7710, 7720, 7210, 7610, 7620, 7110, hey, you're in there like swimwear and you can reset those with the chip resetter. The new ones, it's a crapshoot. Like it's a shot in the dark with ordering them. And some people don't replace them at all. We at one point was at least giving you a refund. We don't cover your shipping. You don't get your refund for shipping to you. We don't pay for your shipping back to us because you are taking on that knowing that you are using a third party option. The only way to guarantee that you would be able to use that printer for sublimation, you're still using it outside of what its intended use was. So it's beneficial because you're saving, but the only way to ensure that those chips are going to read is to purchase Epson cartridges, harvest the chips off like we had to do when those printers first came out. That is how people had to use them. You had to buy the Epson cartridges and then put them on your chips. Put them on the clip of your cartridges to be able to have sublimation ink. And then if you had, like, let's say an old workforce and use pigment ink, you can drain that ink out and use that in your pigment ink printer. But that was the only option. The option now where you won't have color issues would be to get a ET 16600 or 16650. I'm inspired to be as great as you one day, but for now, I'll just keep learning and practicing, do what I can do, do what I can to the best of my ability. And that's all anyone can do. That's all I ever ask for you guys is I'm telling y'all, don't get caught up in the hype of a lot of the things that you see. There is definitely a market that does not care for a lot of these backgrounds that you guys try to do. It's so many people who got into sublimation like, oh, I'm tired of weeding vinyl, right? And you were doing vinyl where you were taking someone's initials or monogram and putting it on, like, let's say even like a regular white cup. And or like the white tumblers, and they're putting bride on them. Oh, I'm tired of weeding. I don't want to weed anymore. These like little thin letters. And then when you get into sublimation, you are not even doing like to make your life easier and be able to do a thin font for bride, put it just on one side of a tumbler the same way that you were doing with vinyl. Now we want to get into, I want to do a full wrap, but then you go into like, I'm getting ghosting at the top, the bottom, it doesn't fit. But originally you said that I want to do sublimation because I don't want to weed. But now you're not sticking with, you didn't make your process better. You made your process more complicated. Because if they were okay with white tumblers with black vinyl on it before, give them a white sublimation tumbler and just put the word bride on it. And you're sublimating one side and you're going to keep it moving, shouted. So you don't have to do a whole lot. You have I see so many people who start t-shirt brands and it's nothing but words. There's literally no graphics whatsoever. Some people have the most basic fonts and it just says some sort of term or whatever. Like that still works. Most of my shirts, if you guys haven't noticed, a lot of my designs are text-based. I'm not even though I am now able to do sublimation, before I was on a lot of vinyl, I just like text-based designs. Like that is who I am at my core, as just like my preference is text-based designs. I don't like a lot of graphic shirts, and there is an audience there who wants that. Just because you see other people doing it in a group, that doesn't mean that the masses likes that. I personally cannot stand memorial shirts with people's faces on it, people's bodies. I can't stand wings. I cannot stand Stairway to Heavens. Maybe a dove or two or something like that, but I don't like picture shirts. I don't really care for them, even for birthdays. I'd rather it be like a character, whatever. I don't really like putting people's pictures. I just don't like people's faces on shirts. Like that's just me. There's a lot of people that's like me that you can market to. Do not get caught up in the hype of these groups. Let me tell y'all straight up, because I coach most of them, where they'll come to me and like they pay for one-on-one sessions, and they are pulling their hair out that they have all these sample things. You look at a lot of people on TikTok, they got a whole bunch of tumblers, but when you go back, they got them same tumblers up there, which means they ain't sold not a nary of one of them. So don't get caught up in seeing the fact that people are constantly posting. One, you don't know if that's the stuff they practice, because hell, I teach them. Don't tell folks it's for practice. Post that ish like you had an order. Nobody has to know that was for practice. So a lot of times the customers, they want to buy when they know other people are buying from you. So I literally coach people on that. So a lot of people are posting the groups. They not making no money. Trust. Okay. They are not making money. I can't, like, it's literally pouring down raining. So, and as soon as the feeder band's coming fast. So I had to wait for it to kind of stop. I'm not trying to, I have a bunch of stuff I have to take out. I don't have an umbrella. I can't get my notebooks wet on my laptop. That ain't gonna happen, Captain. The grad soul class made me realize that I don't have to have all the bells and whistles to have a great design. Text can be just as popping too. It can. It really, really can. As my wheelhouse really is vector-based designs. I think that's another reason why I gravitated more to Silhouette Studio versus Photoshop. For me, Photoshop was like photo editing for me to lighten up, change the saturation, remove certain things, like make things blend, especially like if I have to like take an arm from here, take a part from an arm from here and kind of flip to the other side to where it looks like it belongs there and blend it better and stuff like that. Like that's what Photoshop was for me initially. And then of course there's like for certain things like having those blend modes and making it look a certain way. So I will create a background and a heartbeat in Photoshop, and then I'll still take it over to a different program to like put things on top of it. But I am more of a vector-based designer. I was never one that did like, so when people do like wanted flyers, my disclaimer to them was, what kind of flyer you want? You want like a business looking type flyer, or you want a club flyer? Because what Shakia doesn't do, Shakia don't do club flyers. And I was perfectly okay with that. There is a market for everything. Those ones like with all that ain't for me, with all the little lights and flare. I'll make them. Now, what I can do, this is the style that I make, and I still make plenty of money, especially with those who don't haggle you because they're like on the business level. They don't haggle me about prices. So I made a lot of money in my style. I'm a vector-based gal. I like PDFs, like vector PDFs. I like SVGs. I like text. I don't like all the raster stuff. And there's a market for it. I'm telling you, there is a market for it. What is my Johnson's Plastics code? It is 9PKD6. If you guys don't know, that code will get you 15% off all of the blanks and things. So if you ever get the printer from there, if you ever get a heat press, it won't give you 15% off. But I would, I would greatly appreciate it if you were to still use the code, because it will, that's the only way that I kind of get credit for recommending you guys to the site. If you have a glow forge or any type of laser cutter, they have the Unisub Unisub sheets and stuff like that. So they have like the coded MDF. They have things for laser engraving and like flask and different things like so. If you have a laser, you can go there. If you have sublimation printer, you can go there. They have blanks on top of blanks on top of blanks on top of blanks on top of blanks. You know how when you go into like corporate offices and it has like those plaques and it has like the little pegs and stuff behind it. They got some of everything over there. So you can use that code for, it doesn't have to, it's not just for sublimation, any of like the blank items on their site. The only thing that it does not work on is big equipment such as printers and heat presses and stuff like that. But 9PK D6, whether you are sublimation or you have a laser. They have acrylic sheets over there, all sorts of stuff. All right. I'm going to try and make a run for it. I was over here packing stuff. That's why I bent down. I was over there packing stuff up. So I'm going to attempt to make a run for it because I can get in the car. Now, if I get home and it's raining, my husband's there. He can bring me an umbrella. I just don't have an umbrella here. So it's just getting from the front door to the car without all my stuff getting soaked because it was pouring down rain. All right. So, mine too. Don't put me on no shirt. Now it's like, oh, but you're going to be gone. That's nice. I will come for you in your sleep. Don't put my face. You can put a name. Like I was always the odd one out. My family, they want to. I'll make it for them. When my aunt passed, my grandmother passed, I did not have a name on. I did not have a picture on there. Has the similar design, but no pictures. I had the name and kind of like, I like memorial shirts. I don't like pictures. Not at all. Not at all. What video on YouTube do you have to uninstall? So just search Silaholics Anonymous uninstall. Just literally search those words, Silaholics Anonymous uninstall. So to uninstall, you're literally just going into your apps and you're just going to uninstall it. And then you will just download the version that you want. Now, if you want to back it up just to be on the safe side, I walk you through how to do that. Now, I will say I probably should do another one because in Windows 11, it's either app data or program data doesn't come up like it was 10. I probably should do another one. But just if you search Silaholics Anonymous uninstall, just put that, it should eventually come up. Yeah. So it's like the feeder bands are coming back around. So it stops, it starts, it stops, it starts, but it stopped. Yeah, it stopped now. So I'm about to go. Until next time, guys, have a great one. Peace.